In today's show, continuing our season preview series, trying to bounce back, talking all things Jerami Grant. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're continuing our season preview series. This is the 10th one of these we've done. We're going to run through every player on the roster, talk what they did in the prior season, look back to look forward. We'll talk best and worst case scenarios, and then we'll close the show with our role and expectations, expected role and expected expectations for the upcoming season. Like I said, we've done 10 of these. This is number 10. Today, all things Jerami Grant. If you've missed anybody else so far, if you've missed the first 9, go back and check your feeds. If you're a YouTube viewer, there's a playlist, season previews. You'll find all of them. If you're an audio listener, all of them are titled Season Preview. Search your podcast, whatever app of choice, and you will find them all. Let's get into all things Jerami Grant. We're going to look back to look forward to what Jerami Grant do in 24-25. He struggled. No way around it. It was a struggle for him. Appeared in 47 games, averaged 14.4 points, 3.5 boards, 2.1 assists, shot 37.3% from the floor, including 36.5% from 3 and 84.9% from the free throw line. He started all 47 games he appeared in, playing 32.4 minutes per night. It was the lowest scoring output since his final season in Denver when he was mostly a bench player. He ended up starting for them in the playoffs as they made a run to the Western Conference Finals in the bubble, but he was mostly a bench player during the regular season for the majority of it. And after back-to-back 40-plus three-point shooting seasons, like a legitimately very good three-point shooter in back-to-back seasons in Portland, he dipped to 36.5% from 3. That's like basically league average, but to make Jerami Grant special, like considering all of the rest of his game and weaknesses, like the elite shooting has to be part of the package, or at least the like a well above average on volume. But like more importantly than just like slipping to being a league average three-point shooter, he just forgot how to score inside the arc. He just had no way of scoring from 2. He made 38.1% of his 2-pointers. He shot 47% inside of 4 feet, according to Cleaning the Glass. And so that's a very bad number, 47% inside 4 feet. 47% of the rim for someone his size, very bad number. He shot 29% on all other 2s. On 2-pointers outside of 4 feet, Jerami Grant shot under 30%. Yikes. He shot an absurd, according to Basketball Reference, an absolutely absurd 40% on layups last season. Well, put another way, he missed 60% of his layup attempts. Yikes. This was the worst shooting season inside the arc of his entire career, including his age 20 season on the Process Sixers. A second-round pick out of Syracuse, age 20, playing on one of the worst teams ever assembled. Jerami Grant shot better then than he did last season with the Blazers. He also really had a huge uptick in his three-point shooting. That is by design. From what I understand, and this is something I've reported on the show before. This is not breaking news, but if you'd like to pretend it is, you can. Basically, the Blazers said you're not going to post up anymore. They eliminated that post up shot, and they kind of told Jerami like that's out. Like we're just not going to throw you the ball at 15 feet and let you like go to work and shoot fadeaways. A comfort shot for Jerami, a comfort shot for him for sure. They were trying to last year kind of get with the analytics revolution and totally eliminate mid-range jumpers if possible, except for players like DeAndre Ayton, who's very good at it, and Anfernee Simons, who had some pull-up game, like the only player on the roster that could like consistently get to a pull-up from beyond the arc, and Shaedon Sharpe, right? It's like three guys shot mid-range jumpers. Pretty much no one else did. And Jerami Grant they just got rid of his comfort shot, and he had the highest 3-point rate of his career. That's the percentage of your field goal attempts that come from three. That was by design, right? Take more threes, take less twos. It just didn't work for him. It just never clicked. Not only did he shoot terribly from inside the arc, he just did less with the ball. It was his lowest usage since his final season in Denver. So that's the years in Detroit and also his seasons with the Blazers. It's 5 years, 5 seasons. His lowest usage rate in 5 seasons. And I'm using usage rate from cleaning the glass, which includes your assist numbers. So like sort of maybe a truer sense of how many possessions you use. But it was also the lowest assist. Excuse me. So he has the lowest usage, like way dialed back on the usage, like how, and that's like possessions you finish with a shot, a turnover, a free throw attempt, or an assist. Usage just drops off a cliff, and also he has the worst efficiency since his second season in the league, again when he was a member of the Process Sixers. Yikes. Lower assist rate than either of his previous 2 seasons in Portland. He's never been a dude who passes the ball at a high level, and again, like, that dropped as well. Even if you compare it like assist to usage, that's Clean the Glass does, like the sort of like the relative comparison, what was your assist rate versus how much you sort of how often you were the person who was like finishing possessions, still low. It still dropped, right? And the Blazers were 6.2 points per 100 possessions worse on offense with him in the game. Jerami Grant hurt the team on offense. They were a slight positive with him on defense. Let's be clear. More on that in a moment. He got elbowed in the face on December 28th. He had guarded Kyrie Irving, really kind of a heroic effort against Kyrie. Kyrie had a monster night, but Jerami Grant hounded him. Like they gave him that primary assignment, and he really went to work. And I thought it was an impressive effort level from Grant for sure in that game, albeit like you're guarding a Hall of Famer, and you get cooked. But he gets elbowed to the face real late in that game. And then he missed 2 weeks with what the Blazers called a jaw contusion. Not a concussion. Grant has had some concussions in the past while a member of the Blazers, but they called that a jaw contusion. And he missed 2 full weeks. And then he returns to the lineup like in the second half of January 19th. He returns to the lineup, and that coincides with the Blazers' best stretch of the season. Jerami Grant misses 2 weeks. They're floundering. They're really rough going into ending the first half of the season. Game 41, he returns. They yank Shaedon Sharpe from the starting lineup. They insert Jerami Grant back into the starting lineup, and they rip off 10 of 11. Their best stretch of the season. They put Jerami Grant. He gets healthy. They put him back in the starting lineup, and they just totally reroute the season. They probably saved everybody's job, Billups and Cronin included, and like that stretch kind of was their proof of concept. It might even be the thing that like has caused them to feel like they're good, is like that 11 game stretch where they won 10 of 11 and their one loss was to OKC. That they took off from there, from that moment forward, and Grant didn't play every single game, but because he didn't play at the end of the year, because he doesn't. Like they were a darn good defensive team. Depending on who you're looking at, somewhere between the 3rd best and the 4th best defensive team in the league, but one of the best defenses in the NBA from the moment Jerami Grant gets inserted back into the lineup to the end of the season. He helped. He played some quality defense. He was part of very high-level defensive groupings. In fact, the Blazers' best lineup, if you kind of say like any lineup that played, included Jerami Grant. It was the bigger lineup with Anfernee Simons, Jerami Grant, Denny Avdia, Toumani Camara, and Donovan Clingan. That lineup in 150 possessions, 156, according to Cleaning the Glass, outscored opponents by 36 points per 100 possessions. Killed. Grant was, despite being pretty much awful on offense, was part of the Blazers' best stretch, was a key part of the Blazers' best stretch, and was part of the Blazers' best lineup. life is full of paradoxes. And then his season ended for good on March 9th. He had a right knee injury, what the Blazers termed either inflammation at one point or tendinitis, depending on where in the sort of injury reports you want to look. But it started as inflammation, never a good sign, and ended up being tendinitis. And he continued a stretch of never making it past March 12th. He has never played a game past March 12th in his Blazers season. He has not played a game in April since 2021. And I will remind you that season started in December. So the season went deeper into the spring. It wasn't just 1 week of April. In 2023, Jerami Grant's final game with the Blazers was the 12th. In 2024, it was the March 11th. In 2025, it was March 9th. He has never played a game the Ides of March at 2JG. So what do we make of this Jerami Grant season, right? Like legitimately bad on offense and helpful in a way that is undeniable in terms of like who was on the court when they played their best this season. Jerami was. What changed when they took off and the season shifted? Jerami Grant came back and was back in the starting lineup playing 32 and a half minutes a night. That's what changed. More Jerami Grant shifted things, right? I think both of those things can be true at once. He is a bit of a challenge to unpack because I think he was objectively bad at the beginning of the year, and then he was part of the really good part of a stretch of the season, and the offense never came around. So let's look ahead. Let's talk best and worst case scenarios for Jerami Grant in the second segment. Join me there. Before we do that, though, let's talk Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet. It's designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, you're lifting, or cross-training, and it's got all your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. So Peloton IQ is a system that offers real-time strength coaching. So it actually tracks your reps, it suggests the right weights, and corrects your form. So it makes every rep safer and smarter. Plus, it's got a swivel screen. So you can, if you're running on the tread, boom, swivel that thing around and move to strength training right on your mat without missing a beat. Plus, it's got personalized class recommendations to keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each and every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right. So what we do in these season previews, they're all formatted the same. That's the beauty of them. Evergreen content for you to get caught up on the season. If you are a new listener, go back and catch up on the old ones that you missed. If you're just tapping back in after taking the offseason off, how dare you? No, I'm just kidding. Welcome back. I'm so happy to have you. But go back and check out it's a quick way to catch up on sort of my thoughts on everybody on the team. And again, we've done 9 of these. This is number 10. We are 2/3 of the way through. We're going to get through the entire NBA roster. Probably have some stray thoughts on the two-way guys too, because I'm a monster and every day is Halloween. But what we do here is best and worst case scenarios. These are best case scenarios within reason. So we're not talking about MVPs for dudes who can win MVPs, and worst case scenarios without injuries. These are worst case scenarios that happens on the basketball court, not bodies breaking down. So what is the best case scenario for Jerami Grant? It's that the outside shooting is back up to 40%, and he makes, let's call it a normal number of two-pointers. Right at his career rate before last season of 50%, a normal number of 50% two-pointers. If you want to eliminate his rookie year of 51% on twos, but a normal number, not 38%. The best case scenario is that he shoots back up to where he improved from early in his career to being a very good shooter late in his career, 40% from three, makes back up to his career average on twos, and in a help defense role where he is basically never asked to guard the top assignment. Thanks to the additions of Drew Holiday and Toumani Camara, Grant is given only helper and help side and off-ball defensive roles, and because he is given a assignment defensively that fits his exact skill set is that he excels as a help side defender. He unlocks the Blazers' best defensive lineups because he is put into a role on that end of the floor that perfectly suits, his lanky frame and athleticism. The best case scenario is that he's the Blazers' best outside shooter who slides neatly into a 3-and-D role with the ability to scale up and take on more shot creation duties when needed, but specifically not out of necessity. The best case scenario is that Grant's role on the team, his ask from the coaching staff, and the way he envisions himself all align to make him an excellent complementary part capable of being one of the Blazers' best players on either side of the ball each and every night. What's the worst case scenario for Jerami Grant? I mean, you probably just saw it. The worst case scenario is something like a repeat of the 24-25 campaign. He's a league average or a shade below three-point shooter who cannot score inside the arc in any way. While his three-point rate increases, his free throw rate completely drops off the map. And while he provides, passable and occasionally even effective defense, it's not meaningful enough on that end of the court to offset the negatives on offense. The worst case scenario is not just a repeat of that 24-25 season, the repeat of that production that we saw last year. It's that the repeat suggests something bigger. The worst case scenario is that a repeat performance suggests this is who he is, making it not a down year, but a down slope. The indicator of a player who, for whatever reason, age, unhappiness, what have you, is no longer capable of being a positive contributor on a good team. The worst case scenario is that we get to the end of the season and the discussion around Grant solely focuses on $70 million because that's what the Blazers will owe him for 2 more years remaining on the season. He's owed $34 and $36 million over the next 2 seasons after this one. And if we get to the spring and we're talking about the $70 million in relation to Jerami Grant, and it's an albatross contract hanging over the franchise that could impede their rise, even if all those other non-Jerami Grant parts of the franchise hit the high notes, the worst case scenario is that we say, yeah, but $70 million owed to Jerami Grant. That's the worst case scenario. Last year, I take notes in a physical notebook when I'm at games. I like writing out handwritten notes. So often I'll type up notes for these podcasts because it's a little bit easier. But in game, when I'm in the arena, I type up notes. And last year, the Blazers played a preseason game in Seattle. And I went up to Seattle, and one of my notes that I highlighted in my notebook after that game was that Jerami Grant was not a fun watch, but he was an unfortunate necessity. And what I meant by that heading into the season was like, well, they just needed him to score because like they had sort of built this team that was like, yeah, well, I mean, he's going to have to play a ton because they need him and they need his offense. And then Denny Avdija emerged the second half of the season. Did not start out that way. First 20 games, even maybe the first 35 games because he was in a bench role for a big chunk of it. But he really took off the final second half of the year, final 40 games of the year for Denny. But the first chunk of the season, they really did need Jerami Grant. He just wasn't ready. He wasn't capable, and they needed his defense. They needed his offense. They just needed him. He wasn't aesthetically pleasing, but he was like an unfortunate necessity for that roster. I don't really think that's true anymore, but they're not at a place where they can just functionally kick Jerami Grant to the curb, nor do I believe that they will. So they're in this space where while the worst case scenario seems in play just because he had, we literally just saw him have a really bad year. So if he were to quote me, do it again, a repeat performance, it wouldn't be a stunner because we already saw it once, but they need him to be clear of that, right? They need him to be clear of that worst case scenario a lot. He doesn't remain this as much a necessity because Denny has shown that he can take over more responsibilities, because Tumani emerged as a really good defender and a competent shooter, because of the addition of Drew Holiday gives them another defensive player, so he can still get some good defensive lineups if Jerami is enough of a black hole and enough of a challenge on offense. Like the roster has changed such that his just like absolute inclusion in every good lineup is no longer the case, but they need him. And I think that part's undeniable. They need Jerami Grant to have, if they're going to be competitive, Jerami Grant is going to be a part of the plan. I still don't think they've created a roster that can free themselves of the shackles, right? They're dependent on him. Certainly less than they were a year ago, this time last year, but not entirely. So let's talk role and expectations for Jerami Grant to close this show. Join me in that third segment, won't ya? First, though, let's talk FanDuel. It's football season. It's here. It's upon us. It's happening. In fact, this is Thursday's program. You could watch Thursday Night Football tonight, and FanDuel has an offer you could get after tonight. They don't want you to miss it. Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5, and you're going to get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5. And if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. So any way you like to wager, same game parlays, elaborate parlays built on player props throughout the entire slate of Sunday games, or following the games live and betting live during the game. You can do all of that on FanDuel. If you're already watching the games, it can add another layer to your viewing experience. So what you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers, and we're still rolling through our season preview of Jerami Grant. There's a reason why I held off on this particular preview. I wanted to talk to Mr. Grant at Media Day, because when we last heard from him, it was exit interviews, and he was miserable. He gave like a 3-minute interview, and he was just bummed. The sort of the weight of a bad season from him, and the sort of reality that he was no longer a top tier priority of the franchise, that things had shifted and it kind of maybe the floor had dropped out from under him a little bit. He was miserable, right? And so I didn't want to do a season preview until we had Media Day, right? Until we had a Media Day, until Jerami Grant got to get back in front of the microphone and we kind of got the vibe and all of that, right? And I would say at Media Day, and I'm glad I waited, he gave us the most sort of earnest and honest, facade breaking, like truth, dose of truth that we got from anyone at Media Day. Not to say that everyone was like full of it, right? That's not what I'm implying, but in terms of just like, you didn't have to read between the lines with anything that Jerami said. It was very clear that, yeah, he is in a better place than he might have been in the spring, but he is far from sort of elated, right? Like, there's a couple things here, and we'll get to the role and expectations, but I want to set the scene. He was asked by a reporter, like, do you expect to be back, right? Did you expect to be back? You know, the way things ended in the spring and sort of his attitude, and then like watching, knowing that they were kind of, things were going to change, and DeAndre Ayton gets waived and they trade Anthony Simons, and it's like, yeah, okay, things are changing. This is before all of those moves happened, before the Damian Lillard acquisition that kind of, I think, changed the vibes, at least for the way Jerami tells it. But they, a reporter asked, like, did you expect to be back? And he said, probably not. And then he says, I definitely didn't, but I'm happy that I'm here right now. And he says, the way the team is structured and the changes that were made, I think it's beneficial for me and for our team. But I think that I'm happy that I'm here right now kind of rings out to me, because it doesn't say I can't wait. It says, yeah, I didn't expect to be back, and now that I'm here, like it feels good to be in the moment. I am accepting that this is my place, right? It felt much more like that than a celebration of like or rejuvenation, right? And then Jerami Grant got asked, and this is the role stuff, about starting. He's started every game for 5 consecutive seasons. He started at the end of the Nuggets playoff run, like kind of solidified himself as a starter on a team that, again, made the Western Conference Finals in the bubble. he clearly has spent the better part of five seasons plus kind of the run that solidified him as a starter, playing as a key guy, a number one option or a number two option on teams. And he's asked, like, have you thought about coming off the bench? Like, have you considered what that could be like on this team? He said, nah, I don't really expect that. And that rings out to me for a couple reasons. That was not someone saying, I don't expect it, but I'll whatever coach wants. That was saying, I don't really expect that. That's not going to happen to me. Or another way of saying it is, try me. It had shades of the, hey P, they expect me to come off the bench. A Carmelo Anthony quote in Oklahoma City when they were asking him if he was going to be a sixth man, and he yells to Paul George, hey P, they expect me to come off the bench. That's such a bad Carmelo Anthony impression. Please don't clip it. But in any case, if I had done this earlier, I would have said Jerami Grant's going to come off the bench. I would have. Not that it was a lock. In fact, I've been saying with consistency that I think there are 4 starters that are locks, and there was one spot that was between 3 guys. It was the final starting lineup spot was between Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and Jerami Grant. Scoot gets hurt. We're now talking Shaedon or Jerami Grant, most likely as your 5th starter choice. And when Jerami Grant says, nah, I don't really expect that, to me, it seems that maybe not like a very specific promise from Chauncey Billups, but an understanding with Jerami Grant and the coaching staff and the organization that he expects to start, and they're going to acquiesce. That's my read on it, right? Anything could change. And so if I'd done this a couple weeks ago, that's why I waited, then I would have said, yeah, Jerami Grant's going to start. Or not going to start. He's going to come off the bench. But my guess now is, yeah, he's going to start, huh? Seems like he's going to start. He was always going to play a bunch of minutes. Like, he was always going to play a lot. Even with a healthy Scoot Henderson, Jerami Grant was going to play a lot. Pencil him in for 29 plus. He was just going to play a lot. The best stretch of the Blazers season last year was going to that big 3 forward lineup. It's the thing that they kind of feel like is their proof of concept. Not that they can only do that. And I think Shaedon Sharpe was better than Jerami Grant last year. And I also just as a personal opinion, I think it's bonkers to not start Shaedon Sharpe in year 4 after drafting him as a lottery pick. If you think he's going to be part of the plan in the future, I just can't imagine why you wouldn't start him in year 4. But I can't, that's wood. I can't imagine I can imagine a case where they do this, because this is the way the roster is built. But I'll say a couple things here. One, Billups keeps saying at training camp and all of his press availabilities that, he said it at media day, he said it both practices they've had before I've recorded this. They've had 2. That guys can go earn it. And if you play well in preseason and you play well in training camp and you show out in practice and you do the things you want to do, then you get to play because you've earned it. I don't think I believe that. But I don't totally think it's false. Let me explain to you. I think Toumani Camara in preseason and training camp clearly won a role. He deserved to play. He clearly won a role. He comes in as a rookie. It's like, this dude can hoop, right? This guy can hoop. And Billups is not afraid to sort of go to young guys on the bench. That is a mischaracterization of him if you think otherwise. He doesn't always start these guys, but he's not afraid to go to them, right? And 10 games in, Matisse Thybulle struggles. Toumani Camara gets in the starting lineup and plays 40 straight games until he struggled and they changed the starting lineup again, right? But Billups, so my sort of guess, Jerami Grant's going to start, I think they give him somewhere at least 10 to 15 games to lose it. That is my read on it, right? To lose it. Hey, we know you had a down year. We know you're under contract for 3 more seasons. We know you were miserable at the end of last season because you were no longer you got deprioritized for the first time in 5 seasons. And it's just it might have, sort of maybe tanked your focus a little bit and led to some poor production. So let's reach an amicable agreement, right? Let's reach an amicable agreement. You could start. You're going to start. We like that lineup. It was good. There's some data that suggests that that's the best version of the Blazers, right? But then once the games happen, it's so much easier to have a conversation with a guy. Hey, we wanted you to play better. You're not playing better. I didn't want to do this. We got to, though. It's for the good of the team. It's easier. The conversation just becomes easier. So my guess is that Jerami Grant starts on night 1 and Shaedon Sharpe comes off the bench. And as again, as a personal opinion, not as a prognosticator, I find it just so stupid. Like, it's just so stupid. But like, I think that's what they're going to do. And I don't think it's like, again, they're going to need Grant to play, even if he was come off the bench. They need him. They need his shooting. He might be the best shooter on the team, right? He certainly wasn't last year, and he was bad enough on offense to think like, well, best shooter probably also implies 2-pointers as well, right? Like, it also does include twos. And like, he factually shot worse than Toumani Camara from 3 last year as well. Like, but he has a track record, right? He has a track record, and I don't think you shouldn't boil someone down to their worst season. So they're going to need him. They're going to need his length. They're going to need his depth because they don't have a ton of forwards. And they're going to need to do what he does. But I want to circle back to one thing to close up here. You'll notice that in the best and worst case scenarios, I didn't mention that Jerami Grant becomes this like elite passer or excellent rebounder. He's been a bad rebounder his whole career. The dude is 31 years old. He's not going to rebound this year. That magic is not happening. And he's probably not going to become a better passer this year. So what you're kind of hoping with Grant, and this is sort of my expectations, is that the things he actually does well, been a pretty good shooter for 4 consecutive seasons, 5 consecutive seasons. The shooting is there. He can be good in transition, and on a team that wants to run more, he runs more. He can be someone who gets to the free throw line, and the Blazers are going to need to find a way to get easy buckets. And Grant, if he were to attack with, and maybe he figures out how to be someone who draws free throws without the steady diet of post-ups. But like, he can be someone who provides what they need. Shooting, additional length and depth at the forward spots, athleticism, and like occasionally they're going to need to, like, hey, how do we score here? And wouldn't it be great if one of the answers to that question was Jerami Grant? Because it wasn't last year. But I do think this year they're worse on offense than they were a year ago. Almost certainly going to be worse on offense than they were a year ago. Just in terms of like on paper right now. So some of the like, hey, we need someone to go get a bucket. You can run a beautiful egalitarian offense all you want. Sometimes the defense plays great. You get late in the clock and you just have to go where you go and do what you do. And if Grant can be that kind of like, well, it didn't work. There's 6 seconds left in the shot clock. Swing it to him. Let him try it. Last year, that was a dead zone. If he can get back to being like somewhat functional on that, he's going to be really useful. Really useful might be overstating what my actual expectations for him are, but there is some utility for even Jerami Grant ISO scorer for this team because they might need it. And I think that's what they have to massage. This is where the Chauncey Billups players coach, really good at the soft stuff of like getting guys to buy in and see his vision and then like play hard for him. This is where it happens for him. Jerami Grant's 31 years old. He's not going to add new stuff to his game. He's not going to magically change. But if Chauncey Billups can get him to buy enough in to do things that he's already shown to be pretty good at, with kind of with understanding that he can't do whatever, he doesn't have carte blanche to do whatever he wants. That's the magic of coaching. That's the art of coaching. That is where a good coach would earn their stripes, right? And I think in some ways this is maybe unfair for Billups. It's putting a lot of pressure on him to like fix a grumpy 31-year-old. But Grant does seem like someone who is sort of unhappy or unsettled in his role, and like there are X's and O's stuff, and there's just the soft magic of coaching. And the soft magic of coaching is getting a guy to figure out, hey, I know this isn't what you want, but here's what we need, and you are capable of answering the what we need question. Let's meet somewhere, meet me 2/3 of the way there, but let's meet 2/3 of the way there into what the team needs versus what you're capable of doing. Jerami Grant's an interesting one. He is... He's going to play. He's going to play a bunch. And I think he's going to start. But he's under contract for 2 more years. He's probably part of this thing for a while. He's probably going to be on this team for a while. So figuring out a way to integrate his positives and mitigate his negatives is the real task for them, not only this year, but moving forward, because that Grant contract does not look particularly movable. So maximizing what he can be is the task from here until 2028. That is going to do it for this particular program. Come back for more shows the rest of the week. I promised I would do, starting this week, an interview a week. And guess what? I've had multiple fall through. This is the beauty of trying to schedule these things. I don't think we will have one on Friday's program, but I do believe we will have multiple interviews next week. I'm doing my best. I apologize. That's not how I wanted it to go, but sometimes that's just, people and lives. So look for 2 guests next week and 5 more programs, and come back for Friday's show as well. It's what we do wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.